Friday morning to you. We're coming on the air with some breaking news from the Supreme Court. The High Court has just declined to stop a ban of TikTok, now set to take effect on Sunday. TikTok is, of course, one of the most popular social media apps in this country, with some 170 million users in the U.S. alone. But the app is owned by a Chinese company, and lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have said that it is a national security risk. Today's decision comes after the court heard arguments from TikTok against the law that essentially forces its parent company, ByteDance, to sell its operations here. Situation very fluid right now. Both the outgoing Biden administration and the incoming Trump administration, they've both said that they may try to keep the app going. Joined now by our senior legal correspondent, Laura Jarrett. So, Laura, let's just start with what this means, what it doesn't mean, and what happens next.
So no question, a defeat for TikTok here. Obviously, the ban can go through, but there's a question mark about whether the law is actually going to be enforced, even though it was a bipartisan law passed by Congress, signed by President Biden. It may not actually get enforced. So let's come back to that for a second. First, on the law here, the district court, I should say, actually, the District of Columbia, the circuit court there in D.C., decided to let this ban go through. And today, the Supreme Court saying they got it right. So they are affirming the lower court decision, which means the ban can go through, at least legally, as of Sunday. That's when the law was supposed to go into effect. And so this allows that to happen. They say they're not going to get into the First Amendment implications of it. That was something that TikTok had raised. Instead, they're looking at the national security implications, something that the Justice Department, the FBI, they've raised concerns about, as you mentioned, the Chinese ownership interest here, whether the manipulation of American users' data could happen, whether Americans could be spied on effectively. And because of that reason, the Supreme Court is allowing this ban to go through.
To uphold the ban, uphold the law, right? So there was a big challenge that whether this was unconstitutional, whether it violated free speech. Right now, the Supreme Court has decided that this law can stand. And of course, now it's going to be a question of what goes on once the president-elect takes office, because the Biden administration reportedly may not enforce the ban. But we do know that the Supreme Court has ruled that the ban is okay to be upheld.
So the Supreme Court not jumping in here to save the day for TikTok. The small business owners and content creators won't be happy to hear this, because the platform they've used to grow a following, to earn money potentially, will now be banned. Sunday, as you mentioned, President Biden said he won't intervene to get in the way of this. But President-elect Trump has seen the benefit of TikTok. He's credited the platform with helping him get into the White House. So what does this mean in the very short term for all of these people on the platform who don't know what will happen come Sunday and Monday?
Okay, so a couple of things. In the most immediate short term, the law says that come Sunday, Apple, Google, these app stores, they cannot have the app in their app stores for those in the U.S. So if you don't have TikTok on your phone, you're not going to be able to download it come Sunday. Now, TikTok is reportedly considering not just, okay, we'll still allow people who are using the app to have access to it. They are reportedly considering completely shutting down access for all users. So that's sort of the first question of what might come Sunday for those of us that do have the app on our phones. Then you take this out a little bit further. Yeah. There's the question of, would President-elect Trump sign an executive order that would roll back this law? There's a lot of legal questions for those that are far more smart in that world than me to answer whether that would be possible. But the broader picture is people who use this for their business, for their brand. I've talked to many of them. They're pretty worried because TikTok versus Instagram, you have different audiences there.
Yeah, President Trump being sworn in noon Monday. So if this could be part of his first few official acts, it's still unfolding. Kelly O'Grady, thank you so much.
All right, in the meantime, the clock is ticking on TikTok as the ban is set to go into effect on Sunday. But incoming President Trump may be looking for ways to block the shutdown. TikTok's CEO is actually going to attend the inauguration. What might that mean? Well, it's anybody's guess. But regardless, TikTok will not be the same, whether under new management or gone for good. Any disruption could hit the platform as well, especially what's called the TikTok Shop, along with the businesses that use it. And your next guest is the owner and founder of Canvas Beauty brand, selling 1 million units total on TikTok on Black Friday, even surpassing 2 million in sales in one day. One of the first to ever use the live stream TikTok feature. I'm pretending to sound like I know what I'm talking about. Stormy Steele, and we have confirmed that is indeed her real name.
Yes, it is.
Joining us, coming up from Huntsville. Stormy, welcome. I'm not going to pretend to know half of what I just said, but what would a TikTok shutdown mean for you, your brand, your employees, and Huntsville, Alabama, where you're based?
To be honest, I feel like what's not being considered with the TikTok shop ban is the morale on the American people, right? I feel like it will be totally against 170 plus million people's right to speech, freedom of speech. And then on top of that, like, it'll directly impact their income in a significant way. Some people only find joy on TikTok shop platform in the palm of their hands. So outside of just financially, we got to talk about the Americans' like emotional stability. Some people like rely on this heavily. And as for me, we've done 3 million in a single day. And not only just us, a lot of people are connected to our brand through affiliates. They make money off of this. So I feel like if TikTok shop was to leave, I would personally consider it to be one of the greatest like layoffs in American history.
So what would you do? I mean, thank you for giving us a sense of what the financials are, because we always feel awkward asking people, like, how much money do you make? But we're trying to give us a sense of what's at stake. So now that you know, because we all thought a few weeks ago, maybe this isn't going to happen. And now it's like, okay, maybe it is. So what's the backup plan?
So I feel like no one really knows. A lot of people right now are already omni-channel, so we're on other platforms. But there's nothing like the power of the TikTok algorithm, and there's nothing like what TikTok has been able to do with TikTok Shop. They've somehow figured out a way to seamlessly integrate live selling with a brand, with a person who's sitting at home who can literally find something in their home and say, I love this. Let me go tell my friends about it and generate income.
Have you tried Instagram or some of the other options?
Oh, definitely. We've tried other platforms. We've seen success with other platforms, but we've never seen anything like TikTok Shop.
So you think they're just better at it? What makes TikTok so good?
I think it's the power of community, the fact that you can connect with your consumer. It's the one app. It doesn't matter who you are, how you look, what you have going on. You can turn your camera on and you can connect to your audience. You can connect to a person that's just like you. And then on top of that, with TikTok Shop, you can tell people about the things that you love and generate income.
I do think as both a user and as a wannabe creator, it's so hard sometimes to just put this content out. That takes a lot of work. But I do think the algorithms on TikTok are better.
Yeah.
And I look at Instagram, I go, you have Meta, you have Mark Zuckerberg. Like, how hard can it be to replicate the algorithm from TikTok? And they've copied Snap, they've copied many things in the past.
We don't see her getting worked up about much like this, by the way, Stormy. I want to be clear.
I went viral my first week on TikTok Shop. Wow. I went viral my very first week, and we have been on an upward trajectory ever since. We did 50 million in sales last year. And it was because of the power of TikTok Shop. Not only that, because of our products, affiliates are able to enjoy our products, tell other people about it, and those people are in turn able to make money as well. So when I say like to lose TikTok Shop, it would be devastating. So I feel like the entire American morale and people, like, it'll be a big layoff.
But my guess is, Stormy, that you don't care who owns TikTok. I'm guessing. So if TikTok were to stay alive but be based here and do everything exactly the same, let's say it's exactly the same. Nothing changes, but it goes from China to Phoenix, Huntsville. Do you care?
I do care. And I care because as a business owner, I never want someone to be able to tell me who has to own my business. I think that's not right. And I think it goes against, like, once again, the American dream. It's impactful. It makes me feel like my voice does not matter. It makes me feel like someone can tell me what I have to do with my business, and that is not what this company, this culture of America is supposed to be based upon. So I don't agree.
That's fascinating. Thank you for coming on to tell your story and how you feel about it. It's
if it can happen to them, it can happen to any one of us.
Stormy, we appreciate it.
I don't know if the Supreme Court watches Power Lunch or CNBC.
Major breaking news. The Supreme Court just ruled that a controversial ban on TikTok may take effect on Sunday. The ruling putting the spotlight on President-elect Donald Trump. And I just spoke to him on the phone. It was a brief conversation. And this was his first reaction. I was actually telling him about how the Supreme Court ruled. And he told me, quote, in response, it ultimately goes up to me, so you're going to see what I'm going to do. Congress has given me the decision, so I'll be making the decision. So we're going to talk to our panel about that, because it's not so simple, although, of course, he will have some options available to him. So
on Sunday, so literally TikTok for TikTok. Take a look at just some of what Justice Neil Gorsuch said in his opinion on the ruling, and this was in addition to the ruling. He said, in part, whether this law will succeed in achieving its ends, I do not know. But the question we face today is not the law's wisdom, only its constitutionality. Given just a handful of days after oral argument and issue of an opinion, I, says Gorsuch, cannot profess the kind of certainty that I would like to have about the arguments and the record before us. All I can say, Gorsuch goes on to write, is that at this time and under these constraints, the problem appears real and the response to it not constitutional. So a reminder for our viewers right now, President Joe Biden, he signed this bipartisan bill from Congress in April of last year that then got kicked up to the high court. But now fast forward to today, President Joe Biden says he will not implement and he will not enforce the ban and will leave all those details squarely in the lap of Donald Trump. Now, lawmakers who voted for this bill reacted to the ruling on Capitol Hill today. We wanted to let you hear some of their initial reaction.
I think that's good from a rule of law point of view. I thought TikTok's arguments were exceptionally weak. Well, here are a couple things. Number one is that TikTok, there's no need for TikTok to shut down if China will allow TikTok to be sold. But for months now, Beijing has refused to entertain what I understand are multiple offers, substantial offers, to purchase TikTok from all kinds of different people. And it doesn't have to be owned by an American company. It just has to be owned by a company that is not subject to Beijing's control. That's the problem with TikTok now. Why is it a security threat was your question. And the answer is, if you have TikTok on your phone currently, it can track your whereabouts. It can read your text messages. It can track your keystrokes. It has access to your phone records. And the problem with that is all of that information is available to and subject to inspection by the government in Beijing. And that's a massive, it's not just a national security threat, it's a personal security threat. So whatever you think of TikTok, you love it, you hate it, the issue with it is its national security problems. If it were sold, that'd be no problem.
The Supreme Court has rightly decided to uphold the requirement that TikTok be sold. I support an extension of time, which can be done by the president based on efforts to sell TikTok. TikTok should not be banned, it should be sold. China should not own it, but it should continue to exist in this country. The Supreme Court's decision opens the way for constructive efforts now to preserve TikTok, which everybody wants, but not under Chinese ownership, enabling that enemy of the United States to surveil, collect information, and present a threat to our national security.
I think it's a terrible idea to ban them from using it. And essentially it is a ban. They say, oh, it's not a ban, it's just a restriction. No, if you have like a company worth $100 billion and you say you got 2 days to sell your company, or even 6 months, or then you threaten them with other things, oh, well, we'll say it's antitrust if Facebook wants to buy it or somebody else. There's not that many people with $100 billion sitting around. It's a terrible idea to do this. It's a terrible precedent to say we're going to shut down on speech. Some people say, oh, well, China bans apps. Yeah, they're an authoritarian country. That's why we're not China. We should not be banning speech. Terrible decision.
So CBS News crew is taking the temperature of senators there. Certainly more senators to talk to. But again, really, it all comes down to Donald Trump, and all eyes are on him. What will he do? We're getting some clues on his social media platform today. He says right here, the Supreme Court decision was expected and everyone must respect it. My decision on TikTok will be made in the not too distant future, but the president-elect goes on to say, I must have time to review the situation, so stay tuned. So let's continue the conversation.
To tonight's original now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And tonight, it's the internet, or at least some of it, in mourning, so to speak, ahead of a potential TikTok ban in the United States, which is, by the way, as we talked about earlier in the show, still very much up in the air right now. But others are in a different stage of grief, the acceptance stage, with a whole bunch of Americans moving on. What does that mean? Moving on to what? Well, not Instagram, not X, but a different Chinese social media app, Red Note. And that turn of events means that U.S. and Chinese users are on the same platform. Here's Janice Mackey-Frayer.
Hey, all my new Chinese friends out there.
They're showing up in online droves.
Hello, Red Notes. Oh my gosh, TikTok refugee here.
TikTok users looking for a new home and finding it here.
This might be better than TikTok.
On Xiaohongshu, or Little Red Book, the English name shortened to Red Note. It's become the most downloaded app in the U.S. Apple Store, with over 700,000 new users in the past week alone.
Ni hao. Did I do it? Did I get it right?
Part Chinese Instagram, part search engine, Xiaohongshu is one of China's most popular platforms.
I'm Becca, and I'm introducing myself as a lifestyle vlogger.
Becca Wong is a lifestyle vlogger.
Okay, I'm introducing you to the New Year's gift box.
She uses her account, Who's Becca, to create product reviews.
It's more elegant compared to Chinese version of TikTok.
Critics argue the law pushing TikTok toward extinction goes against free speech. The Supreme Court will have its say on that.
This morning, I opened up my little red book, and what the hell is going on?
For now, the Americans pivoting east has veteran users of the app leaning in.
You better learn yourself a little bit Chinese.
Memes of a terracotta warrior embracing Lady Liberty. Comments ranging from jokes about spies to offers of help with homework. Just don't forget to pay the cat tax that asks American users to introduce their cats.
I think this is a great moment for like a little bonding to happen.
This unexpected U.S.-China connection creating what some are daring to call a kind of digital diplomacy.
The vast majority of people in the Chinese mainland have never even talked to a foreigner. It really seems like a surreal moment.
Thank you, my Red Note brothers and sisters.
The migration is also, for some Americans, an act of protest, at least for Diego Abane from Pasadena.
I don't know what's going to happen to TikTok.
Who, like others, joined Xiaohongshu after hearing on TikTok about other options.
They're just all joining on this app instead of going to any like meta app like Instagram or like X or things like that, just to not support them and saying that it's not really the app that's the problem.
What sort of comments are you getting?
Literally anything from cat pictures to people just saying, nice video.
All the new English language content, though, has censors on overdrive here. According to online job boards, they're hiring reviewers. Sensitive issues, and there are many here, are routinely blocked.
If you don't want to play by the rules, you can never post it out.
Already there's talk on the app that foreign accounts might be limited. The company that owns it has declined to comment.
Americans would literally rather learn Mandarin than use Instagram Reels.
That Chinese state media coverage of TikTok refugees seems positive, signals the government here may not crack down yet. Even the main Communist Party newspaper sounds delighted with the interaction.
People are really seeing this as a historic moment in cultural communications and now trying to remember it, that we can be friends.
Not all Chinese users are thrilled with Americans piling into their online community. The honeymoon may not last, but for now, it seems everyone is talking. Janice Mackey-Frayer, NBC News, Beijing.
Else is here from TikTok.
Hey, y'all.
We're from Texas. Thank you for welcoming us to the app.
We do not trust TikTok will ever embrace American values.
With TikTok's future hanging by a thread, a huge surge of users are flooding a surprise alternative.
This is so much better than TikTok.
Red Note, the English name for Xiaohongshu, meaning Little Red Book, drawing comparisons to a collection of Mao Zedong's quotes, small enough to carry around. Red Note is a Chinese Communist government-monitored social media platform, now topping Apple's U.S. App Store.
Welcome, TikTok refugees. Red Note is not Instagram.
Many say they came here out of spite.
I refuse to support Facebook, Meta, especially Elon Musk and X.
And they're making unexpected cross-cultural connections.
Hey there, fellow TikTok refugee here, and I just wanted to say I have no idea how to speak Chinese.
Today I would like to teach you some Chinese.
Some users searching for international romance or the perfect Chinese name.
Let me help you to pick one that suits you.
One post even recreates famous Chinese and Russian propaganda posters. Just days ago, this may have seemed unthinkable.
I was scared that TikTok was going to go away, so I wanted to find an alternative.
Heather Roberts from Texas says TikTok refugees like her are desperate to find a new platform, a new social media fix.
I haven't been on Red for very long. I've only been on there for maybe 3 days, and I found myself like, wow, this is very addicting. I'd probably say it's a little bit more addicting than TikTok.
An addicting algorithm. Exactly what app developers want. Experts say there are risks when it comes to the rise of another Chinese app. Just like TikTok, RedNote collects huge amounts of user data. China's laws require companies to share that data with the government, but only if requested. Heavy censorship is already affecting American users, some getting their first taste of China's tightly controlled internet. Users say posts on topics deemed sensitive by Chinese authorities are being deleted, including LGBTQ+ issues and even a popular Japanese anime. Other posts face backlash, flooded with negative or offensive comments. Some new users report racist questions, including whether it's okay to use the N-word. Let's say that TikTok goes away and a lot of Americans flood into these Chinese apps. Is that a win for Beijing?
I think it really depends on Beijing's view on how much they need to be in control of the narrative.
As the U.S. Supreme Court and incoming Trump administration debate TikTok's fate, the rise of RedNote raises new questions and concerns about Americans embracing yet another platform under Chinese government control. Right now, RedNote is recruiting people with excellent English language skills, saying that they'll be responsible for back-end data processing and analysis. Now, since Tuesday, we've made several attempts by email and by phone to try to contact RedNote. So far, we've not received a response. We want to know how they plan to handle this U.S. user data specifically. China's national security laws are pretty clear, though. When you download any Chinese app, your data could be handed over to the authorities if requested. Now, China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs was asked about this on Wednesday, and they say that they've always supported and encouraged strengthening people-to-people and cross-cultural exchanges, but experts are wondering how long they're going to allow this type of interaction on this social media platform.
Was the top free-to-use social media app in the U.S. iOS store. It's called RedNote, and it's not easy for non-Chinese speakers to use.
Dude, am I the only one who feels like a grandpa on this app? I don't know what the heck's going on or how to use it. Can someone tell?
And yet, in a live chat room viewed by 26,000 American and Chinese users, there they are. Users introducing themselves as TikTok refugees, being welcomed with open arms.
Nobody actually expects this to happen.
Is it crazy to you guys?
I'm kind of scared.
Wait, isn't it weird though? Because they were trying to ban it because they were like scared of Chinese, like the communist. And then we just come to a Chinese app.
The best thing that could have ever happened.
Is everyone just coming over from America?
Yeah.
Yeah, we in here.
Why are Americans flooding it? In Mandarin Chinese, the app is called Xiaohongshu, meaning Little Red Book. The industry has more recently started calling it RedNote. The software features a recommendation algorithm similar to TikTok, with content like Pinterest and a community resembling Reddit. It's also one of the biggest social media platforms in China, with an estimated 300 million monthly active users, mostly young, highly educated women, according to Chinese social media data provider Tiangua. Half of them are Gen Z, and 1 in 10 are white-collar workers living in big cities. Based in Shanghai, RedNote took off in 2013. But why did it take so long for Americans to find their way to the app? Unlike TikTok, RedNote is designed and developed for Chinese users.
It's in a completely different language, in a completely different country, with completely different rules. I also downloaded RedNote. I obviously used the translation, Google Translation, to create that account. But it didn't take a long time. It was very simple. It took a few minutes. But again, if you don't have an English version, going back and forth between Google Translate is going to be very frustrating in the long term.
Despite such barriers, the tide has clearly turned, with over 700,000 new users downloading the app between January 13th and January 15th, 2025. Although the migration to RedNote seemingly happened overnight, it has been a long time coming.
that TikTok, poses a problem and an issue. And so we have concerns about that as it relates to Americans' data, collecting Americans' data, and the potential national security risk. And we've been very, very clear on that.
TikTok boasts more than 170 million users in the U.S., but Washington has expressed fears over its ownership by Chinese internet company ByteDance. The U.S. House of Representatives overwhelmingly passed a bill in 2024 to force the app to divest from its Chinese owner or face a ban in the country. Fear of being suddenly knocked offline has sent TikTokers flocking elsewhere, and experts say Red Note has been immediately affected as a result.
There's been a huge change in what this platform's content looks like. So a lot of messages are about people introducing themselves. A lot of content is in English language. A lot of comments are in English. A lot of newcomers set goals like, oh, I will learn Chinese and please help me out.
The hashtag TikTok refugee was viewed 370 million times on Red Note in just 3 days. How did this happen so quickly? The Post spoke with a TikTok influencer with more than 180,000 followers who joined Red Note.
I'm not shocked because I know some people are just doing it as like a big FU to the American government, which I think is kind of funny in general. So like I saw a video, I think it had like 1 million views when I saw about Red Note. So like it was already popular in that way. And then I was like, oh, like what is that? And so like I went to go download it and then I played around with it. And now like, so this kind of, it's like a trickling event. But yeah. So yeah, my intentions weren't like F the government, I'm going to go over there. I was just like, oh, like this is something that everyone's over here. Okay, let me go see what it's talking about. And then I made an account. So that's just kind of how it is. Because if they're going to shut this down, it's like, well, where else are we going to go?
As a protest, as a way to primarily spite the government, a lot of TikTok creators and TikTok users decided to enter a real Chinese app. What do I mean by real? Because TikTok international version is actually headquartered in Singapore and it has its servers outside of mainland China, and as the CEO of TikTok Global has mentioned, it's not